Hello everybody. So here we're modeling the torso and I'm starting with the shape that I know best. So basically I know that here we are working on just the breastplate here. In armor terms, that's this area over here. And I'm just thinking, okay, I know what this looks like. So I'm just gonna draw a poly right there, and see how I go. It's very hard to approach models like this because they're very geometric, and with 2D drawings, you don't get a whole lot of sense going on. So I was working from the front view, then I'm working at the side view right now, just making sure those match those lines, looking at the front view again, looking at the side, and making sure that kind of matches. So that's all I'm doing right here. And I'm just extruding an edge up and adjusting it again from the front and from the back as well. And I'm just going and extruding up and up on where I think those those creases are. Imagine this is made out of cardboard, and you're like thinking, okay, where are these lines? I'm like, okay, I've got to make a decision whether I want to model to the top of that color piece there or to the bottom of that extrusion. I decided to figure that out later. So I'm just moving that where I can see it makes sense and just extruded it out towards the back of the collar. And then here we're already going to the back of the shoulder, right? And I'm working on the side right now and just looking slightly at the back. So I'm framing the back right there to be able to see what's going on. Extruding down as well to push the model where the clavicle is. So I'm just pushing the card for the back image out so that I only see the back part of the polygon. Okay, so I've got something there in perspective that I can see that, oh, okay, there's some form shaping. That's okay. I'm just gonna trust the drawing here. So I'm moving the vertices on the back view and then going to the side view, kind of adjusting it. But right now I'm in the perspective, just looking around to see, is this the right way to tackle this? Then I'm going back to front, defining basically where the little collar is, where his neck sits basically. And I'm just adjusting it to as close as possible to the drawing. And I'm also thinking, I don't have a top view here. So I'm thinking, these should be very straight. This should be very geometric. It's not going to be like, up or down or whatever. So at this point, I can just do a best guess right now. You see, I'm just moving things, very close to what I think, where I think they should be, and not really like, bothering with matching the drawing super closely. So whenever I don't have polys, I don't like it. So I just like to come in here, make sure I have polys, but then I had a triangle and I was like, I'll just do that because I have polys everywhere still. And I'm just carving out that little piece in the middle there that kind of juts out. And I have the references on another monitor and I'm just consulting them as well, because like these flat views don't give me much to go on. So I have my references on another monitor and I'm like, keep looking at them and I'm thinking, okay, what would that look like? So I'm just moving that in. So see, right now, you could do this in any software. It doesn't really matter in Maya, but in Maya, I'm just moving around vertices. I'm moving around edges, right? A lot of time you'll be stuck. Like now I am just turning around, looking at it, making sure it feels right. And a lot of the time you have to start somewhere, Don't just sit there and be like, oh my god, where do I start? You see, I'm just thinking, okay, I'm just gonna worry about that part where on the shoulder, I don't know, the shoulder pads or something, and I'm just cutting that out, just defining that. And as I go, I keep seeing more of the model. You see? The more I work on it, the more I see the model coming out. I'm thinking, okay, should I do something about this here? At this moment, should I cut it up a bit more? So I'm thinking, okay, I'll take these and I extrude them. Yep. Now it's starting to take shape, right? And the color here, I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna just extrude it up just so that I can make myself feel better that I'm modeling something. So I extruded it in to just give some detail of that little framing around there. The back's in a weird angle, so I'm just and sometimes I select a big selection and then I just remove edges from that selection to get to what I want. So you shouldn't always do additive selections. You should also do subtractive as well. So you select more than you need and then you remove from it, because sometimes removing from it is a lot easier. I'm just bringing that in there. It's kind of starting to look more like that armor piece. So here I thought, I'd flatten it out, but I thought I'll deal with this later. At this point, there are more pressing matters at hand, which is the rest of the armor, how this comes out. So I'm thinking, okay, this one comes, to his pecs or whatever. And that's going to be a bit difficult to define, so I'm pushing it back on the bottom right angle, and I'm thinking, where would that go? And I'm just gonna leave it where it is, and this one would kind of be very close to the breastplate there. Alright, so if I'm looking at it from the side, I see, okay, I could just get rid of that, and when I do, it just makes a lot more sense. There's a triangle there. Okay, I'm just going to delete these so that, I know that the model is not ending there. And, I've selected these edges. I'm just going to extrude them out. Make sure they're flat first, by scaling it in on itself, and extrude it out. And, I'm just adjusting it towards the front view, just moving these vertices. Deleting these extra edges that I don't need on top of that shoulder guard or pad, whatever we're going to call it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to extrude this down. Looking at the side menu, I'm thinking, how does that come down there? So I'm just trying things out. I'm like, okay, so that's basically like that, maybe? I don't know. And there's a lot of guesswork involved. You're like, how does that fit in there? Because you only have one view, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to think about that at this point. I'm just gonna move other vertices that I see have problem here, and work on those. You see me like trying to fix that. I'm like, okay, this is not in the right place. Oh yeah, nice, exactly in the right place. This one's like really too high. And I realized, oh my god, what's going on with the shoulder there? Seems a bit loopy. I was like, okay, that's fine. Let's just leave that there. I want to be able to close this shape, so I'm gonna think. Then I really decided to just pick one place for that vertex to go and just leave it there, because the more I move it around, I'm not understanding how this works. So I'm just gonna extrude this and see where I get to. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just looking at it. Should I? I'm like, yes. All right, fine. I'll make that choice. And I'm thinking from the front view, only half of it comes down there. So I'm adding like a line through it. To kind of make sure that I have two edges there to work with. You see, if I extrude that down, okay, if I extrude both of these down, it only goes so far. It's very hard for me to imagine this model in 3D, so I'm just following the guide. So I just followed the front view and then the side view to place it. I'm like thinking, okay, only half of it goes down. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, and I just move that to accommodate that. And I'm looking at the front and the side at the same time. Selecting that edge again, holding shift and extruding it, extruding it, extruding it. And now it starts to make sense. Oh, okay, it just comes back in on itself. So I just bridged that and deleted that edge. So now I have something here that kind of starts to make sense, and that other half comes in and joins back with this area. So I'm just gonna bridge that as well. Oh, so that's how it is. So it's like a little plateau there. Made sure that I joined it there, and I realized, okay, this other piece doesn't have the line there for them to join up. So what I did was, okay, I lined them up, and I did a target weld there on the vertex, and just scaled it in on itself a bit to make sure that it's flat. But then I was like, should it be flat? I don't know. Yeah, let's make them all flat. Just scaling all of them in on themselves. Here we go. Alright, here I'm just deciding, okay, what's the next course of action? Do I select these and bring them out? Or this one? I'm like, okay, this one makes more sense. So I'm gonna extrude that. I know how that works. Great. And I was right. But I'm like looking at the back camera now to make sure that it's going the right way. But I'm thinking I'm gonna need a line to meet up with those two lines over there. So I'm doing that. And then I realized, I should have looked at the back view to make sure that I was doing the right thing. So in the back view, I'm just, okay, now I gotta move all these vertices to be exactly aligned with the model there. And it starts to make sense. The more you work on it, the more you move stuff around, it starts to make sense. But don't sit there and look at it and be like, oh my god, where do I start? That's always the worst thing. So I'm just extruding this back piece out. I'm thinking, yeah, it's gonna follow that other piece that we just extruded. So I realized I just merged two things I shouldn't have. Control Z, and then I'm just going there, edit mesh, merge at center. And this one I use target weld, it was just easier. It's very visible. So now it's starting to make sense. It's okay, something like that. Now I'm looking at the back view and kind of aligning it to the back view. And I'm still not sure how this kind of joins with up there, so I'm just moving on. Going to another part of the model. Fixing whatever I haven't aligned with the drawings. Just making sure all these vertices. You see, the less vertices I have, the less I have to worry. If I start adding lines, if I start making this a lot more dense than I need, then it's going to be very hard to model. So when I model very low poly. I model with the least amount of polys that I possibly can get away with. And then later, after I'm finished modeling, I'll go and do a nicer pass and add bevels and do all sorts of things, right? So modeling those pieces there in the middle really helped me to understand where the chest, how that kind of comes in. So I'm adding some more details here to make sure that I can extrude that part out a bit more. So I'm thinking, look, I'll close this up, see if it makes any more sense. So I'm just going to do a fill hole right here and think, okay, do I really need that? But it's just for my own sanity to understand the shape a bit more. I think this is the last part where we're like, extruding these things. All right, so now it's really coming together. Now we're just gonna mirror this across to see what we've done. So I just want to see these edges better. So I'm gonna kind of make sure that they're hardened edges so I can see them better. And I'm thinking, okay, how do they come together? Because it's just there. I don't really have any more definition than in the photo there or in the drawing there. So I'm just going to leave that for later and think about the other parts. Maybe that'll help me kind of figure this out. But for now, I tried to merge them together to see if that makes any sense. I'm moving things around. All right, at least it's closed for now. All right, there we go. It's somewhat closed. So I'm thinking, okay, what about the rest of this armor? So I'm thinking, okay, the rest of this armor is modeled after a rib cage. So, we gotta think of it that way. So now I'm just, cleaning up the center line here. And I'm just moving the two models on either side. Because they're instant, it's really easy. I can just model one of them and the other one will, kind of follow suit. So just make sure they're instants when you duplicate them with Edit Duplicate Special. So for the center part, I'm just making a cylinder and just scaling it out, bringing it to the top. And I thought, this is going to help me a lot understand the shape a bit more. And that's, what I thought. And when I look at it, I'm like, yeah, it really does look like that. If you actually consult the drawings, you're like, okay. So here I bring a box and I'm just reshaping the box from the side to kind of cut out that part of the breastplate. It's like where the rib cage ends. Usually when you do character design, a lot of these armor pieces really are modeled after, human musculature or, where the bones are. So, you kind of, you get an intuition for these kind of things and you're like, okay, so that's basically how this would have been modeled. So I'm just selecting the sides which I want, Control Shift I to inverse my selection, and I just deleted everything else. So again, I deleted half of it, and then I'm gonna just, duplicate special and mirror it to kind of get a better idea of just modeling half of it. and seeing the other half kind of take shape. But at this point, I just want to see how it kind of interacts with the model. So I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to merge this with this model later on? So that's how I'm approaching this. I'm not approaching it so that, I'm going to just leave it there. But I'm thinking, okay, I want this to be one continuous mesh. How do I make them join together? So I'm thinking, okay, this line has to line up with that, Okay, if there's no definition here, I might have to add more definition. So I'm selecting these two edges, doing a connection, and just defining that shape a bit more by bringing it out. And I'm thinking, okay, so if I want to have that line there, I gotta join it up with this. And that's it. I'm just anticipating my work later on of how much I would need to add. So here I add one more edge here and placing it where that line would end. And same here. So I'm thinking, okay, there's got to be something around here. I'm looking around the model. I'm thinking, ooh, okay. All right. Kind of placing it in the right place and seeing how it looks. So we'll leave the rest for next week.